Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people conform to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. But first, thank you for subscribing to the channel and for all those likes. Today we have 5 great stories, so let's get right into them. Shall we? The first story is called Speak to an Expert. I work on an IT help desk. It is what you think it is. One of the things we support is mobile phones. However, the company my company supports and the one I'm on the desk for has supplied us and the users with handy dandy guides on how to do pretty much everything that's needed on mobile phones. It's really airtight and I love directing people to the guide because it has a video and steps on how to do things. They can find it on the intranet in the IT section. However, since the average caller never reads the guides, we often get callers who think that we can magically do things over the phone to fix it. These are people who get up, get dressed, tie their shoelaces and completely forget how to do anything but breathe when they get on the phone with us. You might think that's hyperbole, but I've been asked which finger they needed to use to tap the phone. One such user locked a ticket and demanded a callback from an expert. He was given the user guide link and, oh boy, did not like that. He called and got through to me, and I explained that we have the exact same guide and that I would only be reading it out to him over the phone as he read on his end. Naturally, he didn't listen to what I said and demanded I help him because he doesn't have time for the guide and he'd rather speak to a tech person to sort it out. Cue the malicious compliance. I spent an hour and 20 minutes on the phone, slowly going through the guide word for word and making sure he'd follow every step. I even got it on his laptop screen that I can access. He asked several times if we were almost done, to which I reiterated, you can come back to this at your leisure using the guide on the intranet. Mobile phones are not managed in the same way as computers. We cannot remote access them and fix things. He had meetings, lunch, all sort of things lined up that got shifted out of the rack on his calendar. And every message he received on his laptop that he answered, I made sure to go back a couple of steps just to confirm what we'd done so far. He wanted to speak to an expert, so I just made the guide speak, through me. The next story is called Resolve It Immediately. I'm a building manager and I took over 2 residential apartment blocks. Part of my duties includes assigning parking spots. Due to the incompetence and neglect of the previous management company, I inherited a parking lot which was a complete organizational disaster. Multiple tenants believed they had been assigned the same spot, tenants parking in spots but not paying, etc. And, of course, the parking map, which is supposed to be regularly updated, had not seen an update in almost 16 months. A situation arose where 2 tenants were fighting over the same parking spot. Instead of coming to management to resolve, they engaged in a nasty grand brawl which consisted of them leaving mean notes on each other's car. Eventually, this dispute spilled over and I was contacted by one of them. The conversation was simple but plain. I expressed understanding about their frustration and asked specific questions to help figure out who was originally assigned that parking spot. I explained how previous management failed to maintain order in the parking map and that I would cheerfully resolve the issue. Instead of replying to my simple questions like, when were you assigned the spot, when did you sign your lease, they sent me an all caps email. I do not have to answer any questions and I expect this parking situation to be resolved immediately with no more emails or text messages. Well, if they had just answered my questions, I could have resolved this situation. I suspected they were the original tenants assigned the spot and it was indeed theirs. But since they would not answer questions and insist on a resolution immediately, I did what I could. I assigned the other tenant that spot and I replied, in order to resolve the issue without communication, you are now assigned spot number 64. If you continue to park in spot 35, you will be towed immediately, as it is now assigned to a different tenant. I gave them the spot right next to the dumpsters. Now they can enjoy the stench of rotting garbage and a cloud of rust every trip to the car, which is also 100 meters further away from the doors. 2 days later, they approached me in person and apologized for their behavior. I said, no worries, I don't hold grudges. They asked if I could reassign them their old spot. No. The third story is called She Thinks She Has Won. My new manager at work is one of those people that absolutely has to be in control. Even when you are exceeding every scorecard measure, keeping your head down, not putting a toe out of line, she still asks you to come to a meeting room to discuss some minor issues or another. Recently, she pulled me into a meeting to discuss me being late for work. The protocol is to call in, say we'll be late, then submit a schedule adjustment request when we arrived. She accused me of not calling in or submitting a request, but I was able to prove I did. Only instead of leaving it at that, she insisted I now needed to call her and explain why I was late. That's not the process, I told her, and she said she was making a new one. So now I call her at 6 AM on her day off to let her know if I'm gonna be late. She also had a meeting with me because my scorecard for a stat was 99 out of 100 with a target of 50. She had to point out the one point I missed. She also did the same for a handling time issue where I'm hitting an average of 600 seconds with a target of 1500. She needed to tell me about a call I took too long on. Suffice to say, complaints have been raised to her manager. Following an incident where she was asked to follow up on something for me and claimed if it's not in writing it didn't happen, I've been asking for everything in writing and repeated mantra back to her when she claims to have told me something. Last week she asked me to see her after my call. I walked over and she wasn't there, so I went back to my desk. She asked me why I didn't stay around, and I reminded her of the time she put in writing that I wasn't to spend more than 1 minute waiting for her if she asked to see me and was to go back to my desk to take calls, not wasting time. She asked me to come over again, and when I did, she wasn't there. This repeated twice more before my shift was over. Each time I documented, logged out at this exact time, came to your desk, you were not there, spent 45 seconds waiting, returned to my desk and took another call in chat. She messages me to ask what time I finish. I tell her it was 2 minutes prior and she says we can catch up now. I tell her that my shift is over and ask if she will approve overtime pay for an out of hours meeting. She tells me not to be silly and it will just take 10 minutes. I refuse and say if I don't get paid we can do it tomorrow when I'm being paid. She's typing, then not, then typing, then not, choosing her words. I know she's angry at being challenged and she decided to employ one of the tactics she used when she managed a team for a company where this was a standard practice. Okay, well, if you'd like to go home now, I can always make it a formal meeting. A formal meeting where I work is code for a meeting with HR documented on your record for misconduct and repeated issues. She thinks she won. Not a problem. Make a formal meeting. Ensure I have 24 hours notice, send a formal invite and I will bring a support person with me. I log out and leave, but not before grabbing screenshots and saving a copy of the chat logs. The next day she's called my bluff and had a meeting scheduled. I send it to my union rep and she comes in on the day. HR sits down with us and opens with, "So, we are here today to discuss some concerns. Your team leader asked you to attend an off-the-cuff catch-up 3 times and for some reason you refused." I quickly clarify what actually happened. My manager claims otherwise and I repeat her mantra. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Then I supply receipts, her demands to put things in writing, her chat, my timestamps, my call logs and her message to me afterward. My union rep stares at the two of them with a small smile. Then asks, "So, do you maintain the position that employees should attend meetings unpaid and that misconduct investigations are a good use of resources if they refuse?" HR said there may have been a miscommunication and that I could return to work. I have put it in writing that I am not accused of any misconduct and have been cleared of any false accusations with nothing documented on my staff file. Yesterday, my team was advised that our team leader had decided to pursue opportunities outside of the company and we were getting a new manager. The next story is called "She Wants to Play Games." A rock and home health. Basically, I sit with old people overnight and make sure they get to the bathroom, don't fall, have anything they need, etc. I am supposed to do some basic housework, but my current client has merry maids, so there isn't much to do. I always do more than I'm required because I get bored easily. I take everything off large counters and clean and sanitize them. I clean out silverware drawers and reorganize them the way the client likes. Whatever I can find to pass the time. Today, my client said to make sure I clean the kitchen at night. My own mess from lunch, not the client's mess. I am always extremely careful to leave the kitchen cleaner than I found it. My client said the day girl complained that I didn't clean out a few seats in the sink. Really? Well, okay, if you want to do this, we can do this. None of this is blamed on my client and my care for her will not change in the least. I stopped doing anything I'm not required to do. I don't sweep and mop the floor because I don't have to. I don't clean out the fridge and organize it anymore so the day girl can put her food in more easily. My client doesn't know what I do overnight, so unless I'm told to do it, from now on I'm not doing it. Have fun cleaning all the crap I don't bother to clean anymore. But I will make sure the drain catch is clean and shiny every morning. Don't mess with someone who works without supervision. The last story is called "He Wanted to Get Them Involved." I work in the legal sector, so a lot of this will be vague for reasons. Our clients are all vulnerable in some way and we are responsible for managing their financial affairs. This includes all aspects, from something as small as making sure they have money for food shopping to acting for them in litigation proceedings. One client of mine has historically always been very healthy, and all the family knows it and have enjoyed their wealth in one way or another during his lifetime. In our role, we are encouraged to work closely with the person's family members and close friends to ensure we get an idea of what the person would have wanted, etc. It's like walking a tightrope with client confidentiality every day and can be quite difficult to navigate, as most nosy family members don't like being told no. The client is now incapacitated and we control their finances. We are also in the middle of the divorce proceedings, which I'm sure most people know means exchanging various financial and property info with the other side. We have corresponded with a distant family member a few times during our work for this client. I call them C. C is a pain to deal with and believes he is entitled to our urgent attention whenever he demands it. He is not the client, nor paying our costs. He also thinks that because he is mentioned in our client's will, that he is entitled to any and all financial information about my client that he asks for. If he doesn't get it from me, he'll email my other colleagues. If not from them, then directly to my boss. We have tried to be as transparent as possible with C, as per our professional guidelines. Recently, as legal proceedings are wrapping up, he has become more and more confrontational. His most recent email to a junior team member was simply unacceptable, so we did not respond. He is not entitled to a response as he is not the client. Now, C was not going to take this lying down. As our role is obviously very important in terms of vulnerable people, we are overseen by a government body. So people can complain to them if they think we are acting in a way that puts the vulnerable person at risk. C lodged a complaint that we weren't doing right by our client as we were alienating the family. This leads to a lot of non-chargeable admin work for me as we need to formally respond to the government body. It was obvious that C did do this to force our hands to tell him things he was not authorized to know, as he expected us to fear the backlash from this body, as his latest email threatened. But this is where the malicious compliance came in. I drafted a 2-page response with every communication we had with him to prove we had been as open as possible. This made it very obvious the sort of info C was eager to get without me accusing him of anything. The government body reviewed the response and conveniently noted that C was asking for confidential information. As a result, we were put on notice by the government body to keep contact with him to a minimum to protect client confidentiality and formally warned him of misusing the safeguarding process and that the court would be made aware. The response to him went out at 4 PM on Friday, so he had to sit and sieve by himself all weekend. Now he won't get any information about our client and we won't be penalized for ignoring the family of a vulnerable client. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.